Here's our next letter. This is letter W. This is uppercase W. This is lowercase w. W says w, like w, wagon. W, 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 wagon. Here's our W song. Willie would not wear a hat, wear a hat, wear a hat. Willie would not wear a hat, it made his hair too flat. I wish you would, Aunt Wanda said, Wanda said, Wanda said, I wish you would, Aunt Wanda said, and plopped one on his head. Willie starts with W, and where starts with W. What else in this song starts with W? Can you name some? All right, our W book for today is called Worm's Wagon. Worm starts with W, and wagon starts with W. One day, Worm went to the woods to gather walnuts. He brought his wagon with him. What is Worm putting in that wagon that starts with W? Walnuts. On his way home, Worm saw Woodpecker whistling in a weeping willow. Woodpecker asked Worm for a ride. Who's asking Worm for a ride that starts with W? Woodpecker. He says, wow, what a wagon. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker in his wagon. Soon they came upon Weasel eating watermelon. Weasel asked Worm for a ride. There's Weasel, who starts with a W, and he's eating what that starts with a W? Watermelon. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker and Weasel in his wagon. Before long, they bumped into Wombat, wearing her new wig. Wombat asked Worm for a ride. Wombat, wig. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, and Wombat in his wagon. Next, they met Wolf on his way to work. Wolf asked Worm for a ride. Wolf. That wagon is getting pretty crowded. Can you predict what might happen? Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, and Wolf in his wagon. Soon they saw Walrus winking and waving. Walrus asked Worm for a ride. Worm wiggled along, pulling Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, and Walrus in his wagon. Up ahead, they saw Whale playing in the water. Whale asked Worm for a ride. Worm wiggled with all his might, trying to pull Woodpecker, Weasel, Wombat, Wolf, Walrus, and Whale in the wagon, but the wagon would not move. The wheels started to wobble. Wham! Oh no! The weight was too much for the wagon. It crashed to the ground. Oh no, my wagon, Worm wailed. Did you predict that the wagon might break? Don't worry, Worm, the animal said. Worm's friends worked on the wagon all afternoon. When the wagon was fixed, Worm wiggled into it. Then Wombat, Weasel, Wolf, Woodpecker, Walrus, and Whale pulled Worm all the way home. And weary Worm had a wonderful ride. Now he gets a break from pulling. Okay. Here is our pause point. So pause the video and see what you can find in this picture that starts with W or w. And finally, we have our W cheer. W is for worm and wagon to pull. W is for wig, whale, wave, and wool. W is for watermelon, juicy and sweet. W is for walnuts, waffles, and wheat. Hooray for W, big and small, the wildest, wackiest, letter of all. Okay, one more time. What's this letter? W, 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 wagon.